Welcome to the Alpha Overwatch podcast, where we tackle subjects to help men, especially first responders and military, go forth and conquer. Alpha Overwatch is a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting those on the front line, helping them go forth and conquer in every area of their lives by providing community, support, and tactical retreats. To learn more and support the first responders and military personnel Alpha Overwatch is impacting, visit our website at alphaoverwatch.org. Enjoy the episode. Welcome back to the Alpha Overwatch podcast. Thanks for tuning in. A lot has happened since our last podcast, where we talked about being what it means to be a true man. A true alpha male is to be both a lion and a lamb, to be a warrior, but also to be gentle, and what that looks like. That we need to fight for those that are under our care, that are under our protection, but also to be a lamb towards them. So we're fighting for them, not against them, so that we don't become their worst enemy. Since then, it's always at the forefront of my mind, but especially since that podcast, I guess it was more in my forefront of my mind about how, as a man, we are dangerous. We're called to be dangerous, and I'm going to clarify what this means, what it means to be dangerous. Okay, and looking at how Veterans Day had happened, and I had the privilege of getting to interview some veterans. Just my own interaction with a lot of the veterans that I know have gone through horrendous things, courageous things, have really served this country and sacrificed for this country. But one of the gentlemen that I was talking to, he was a frogman, which then developed into the Navy SEALs that we know today. But he's the most humble guy that you would never even think that that is what he did. And that goes back to an ethos for the Navy SEALs. If you look at their signa, the eagle, you'll notice that the head is bowed, because humility and being humble is something that's super important to the Navy SEALs and their community. To stay hungry, you have to stay humble. And so I've seen this with other Marines, Air Force, all firefighters, police officers, everybody across the board, is that they don't have to go around boasting who they are, or be domineering. They are comfortable in who they are, and that's one of the things that it means to be a true alpha male, is to be confident in who you are. You don't have to, impress everybody, wear the t-shirt and make sure that they see you and beat your chest and everything like that. It's in your gravitas and your character of who you are. And part of that is being dangerous and holding that danger under control. And then we fast forward a little bit, this was still at the forefront of my mind, mulling it over, when the Jake Paul and Mike Tyson fight happened. And I'm not going to get into any of that, because those that watched, you all know it was... But regardless, here's Mike Tyson, older gentleman, 58, yet I would not want to get caught by his punch. All right, I'm just going to say I know how the fight ended up, but end of the day, he's still a very dangerous man, and I had to admire that. So let's break this down a little bit more, where I've kind of been landing. And so to the movie Expendables. Barney Ross, he says this quote: "We can't change what is, so we keep it light until it's time to get dark. And then we get pitch black." And then he's referring to the dark humor that we kind of all develop in the fields that we're in. And it reflects this mindset needed for high stress environments, to balance both humor and seriousness. That, hey, while we're at the station or while we're amongst each other, we can keep it light, but as soon as the tones go off or as soon as we're called into action, we lock it down and we're able to get to work. This shows how we're able to adapt, and something that sets some of the men apart. Like, we'll get into that in a future episode. I want to get a psychologist on, and we'll talk and unpack dark humor and talk about all this. But it does show that we're adaptable, that we're able to stay calm under normal conditions, and ready to act decisively when critical. And this is what makes us dangerous, is that we are calm. We're able to, keep our composure. But if something arises, some danger arises, if we're at some sporting event or something like that, and danger arises, we spring into action. We're running towards the danger, not away from it, because that's who we're made to be. That is the lion in us coming out to protect all the other lambs. And so, listen, I'm not saying to draw back from that. I'm saying to actually cultivate that mental discipline and emotional resilience to handle the shift from light to dark, and make sure that we don't stay in the dark, that once the danger's gone, that we're able to come back to the light. I admire the special operations guys that can go from, they go overseas, they do what they need to do, then they're coming back and they're doing a tea party with their daughter. Like that is a perfect example of what it means to be a lion and then a lamb. And we need to be able to make that shift. And I know that that's hard, but that's what Alpha Overwatch is here for, is to help you learn how to make that shift so that we don't get burned out. We don't get into adrenal fatigue, and we're able to continue to go forth and conquer. And the other part of this that was kind of mulling over was this quote that comes from another movie of mine that I really like, called Act of Valor. If you watch it, if you've not watched it, you need to. But when you do watch it, you need to know that maybe the acting isn't that great, because the Navy SEALs that are in this movie are actual Navy SEALs. They were actually active duty Navy SEALs when they made this movie. And so you're seeing some of their training up close and personal and matters. And there's this quote that's in there that one of the guy writes, that he said, the worst thing about growing old is that other men stop seeing you as dangerous. I feel that to my core. The older I get and the more gray that shows up in my beard, I feel that to my very core. And that's why, getting into, once I got out of the fire service, it kind of felt that need, like, hey, I'm serving in this role. But getting out of it, then I was like, okay, what's keeping me dangerous? Like, how am I to live now? And that's where, when I got introduced and was able to get into jiu-jitsu, it's now made that mind shift again for me. And I started, dropping the weight off again and getting back to it and getting back to where I was. And it's something that if you're not in it, I highly encourage it, and just love it, because it allows you to stay dangerous. It allows you to keep that forefront of your mind of who you are, and being aware of your surroundings, and getting comfortable in uncomfortable positions, and observing and knowing how you would react to certain things. And so growing old doesn't mean that you're less dangerous. If anything, it makes you even more dangerous, because now you got wisdom to go along with the strength. And it's, when I'm talking about danger, I'm talking about not just that you're flying off the handle, that you're just, you're unsafe to be around. That's idiotic. But to be dangerous is about possessing and controlling those skills, having those skills at your ready, that you could do what needs to be done, that you have the wisdom and readiness to protect and lead. So if it's called upon that you have to rip somebody's head off, that you're able to do it, but at the same time, you keep it under control. And so you are safe to be around, but you're a danger to evil. You're a danger to those that are a danger to those that are under your care. That is what protects them. That's what keeps them safe. That's what allows them to sleep comfortably at night. And we need to have that type of danger capability that we keep locked under control, but we unleash when we need to. And so in order to do that, we have to have an ethos or a code to live by. For myself, we have a faith-based ethos, but some of you're still developing that, and that's totally fine. Maybe your ethos comes more from the professional side of the values that your department holds, or it's more of a personal thing that you've developed. But the ethos needs to keep you moving to being the man that you're supposed to be. It's foundational for maintaining both the strength and honor, that you are able to be the man that you're supposed to be. And here's the other part. As I was thinking about this, what Jake Paul, all right, going back to Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, was like, here is a young guy who could really benefit from the wisdom of Mike Tyson. I mean, think about that. If Mike Tyson would take time to mentor Jake Paul, that Jake Paul might actually turn into an actual boxer. Yeah, I said that. And look at where you're at in the military, fire service, police, EMT, wherever you're at. That you have, those that have been in the service longer have a responsibility to train up those that are coming in, the rookies, the younger guys, and harness that strength, that energy, that vigor that they bring into it. And that's where the younger guys, they have the strength, but they don't have the direction. They don't have the wisdom to know how do you properly apply the strength. Whereas the older guys, we're a little bit more tired. We need a little bit more time. We need a little bit more safety naps. But we're able to give that wisdom and saying, hey, direct it this way. And this is, I'm not talking just in professional life, but this is also very true in your own personal life. When you see someone that's heading towards a shipwrecking their marriage or their personal life with debt or just being stupid, that you're able to step in and say, hey, calm it down a little bit, pull it back, and direct it this way, and use it for actual good. And this is where the old warrior's code comes into play. And this is where I love that quote, beware of an old man in profession where men usually die young. Old warriors did not get old by accident. They got old by being wise, having the right knowledge, and being tough. Never underestimate an old man who has grown up in a rough profession or a rough environment. These men have been around. They have done things and experienced things that you probably have never even thought about. They are tough. Their minds are tough. And they have the knowledge, the skill, and the will to finish you off if you force them to do so. A boy will fight you, but an old man will hurt you. And that's a lot of truth in that the old warriors, you have developed knowledge and wisdom that goes beyond what most people can understand. And this is just the importance of more mental endurance and tough professions, that you develop this and now to pass that on to the younger generations so that it can continue. This allows you to stay in the fight and you don't have to fight to prove yourself, but just to finish what needs to be done. That's where you're at right now, is that you don't need to prove yourself to anyone, but you have the strength to finish what needs to be done. And you can see that through to completion. You're able to keep your control throughout and still have that dangerous ability. Like, I was always in awe of those that standing and being around and seeing how they were able just to switch that gear, and it was amazing. They were so smooth in what they did because they had done so much training and they had perfected it. So keep learning and refining skills and to remain sharp. Reading books keeps the mind sharp, but also learning those skills, getting out on the drill ground. Yeah, you don't maybe need to do what the other guys are doing, but you can still show them the right way. Be a mentor to some of the younger guys. And that's where our Leave No Man Behind program that sets Alpha Overwatch apart is so crucial, is that we need men in that to be able to mentor some of the guys and help them through. And a mentor is not someone that tells you what to do, but comes alongside you as you're going through it and guides you in those steps. So pass on those hard-earned lessons. And guys, the younger guys, listen to the knowledge and wisdom. Save yourself the heartache. There is no reason to go through the University of Hard Knocks if you don't have to. And then also live in such a way that others see your danger not in recklessness, but in your integrity and resolve. Like, man, I know that guy could absolutely rip my head off, but he chose to reserve himself and to pull back and didn't do that after all. And that's something that can be admired and respected and learned from. In closing, just another quote that comes back from the Act of Valor. He says this he's writing a letter to a guy's son, and he says this: "Remember, you have warrior's blood in your veins. The code that made your father who he was is the same code that will make you a man he would admire and respect. Put your pain in a box, lock it away like those people in the paintings your father liked. We are men made up of boxes, chambers of loss and triumph, of hurt and hope and love. No one is stronger or more dangerous than a man who can harness emotions and his past. And I would push back a little bit on locking up the pain. It's good to feel that pain, to work through that pain, but at the same time, you got to control it. And when everybody else is a basket case, you can't be. But I love that phrase, that remember the warrior's blood that's in your veins. And listen to this. We're all, I'm going to get a little theology here, but stick with me, is that we are all created in God's image. That's what makes us all equal. And here's the thing, as part of being in God's image, the blood that flows through us, listen to who God says he is. In Exodus 15:3, it says, the Lord is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. The Lord is a warrior. Yahweh is his name. And if we're created in God's image, there's no wonder that there's a reason why we were made masculine. There's a reason why we have the masculine heart and blood, and there's a reason why we get fired up when we see injustice. There's a reason why when we see evil that we can't sit by and let it happen. There's a reason why that lion starts roaring up inside of us, is because we are made to be so. We're made for this time to be that warrior, to step in, to fight, to be dangerous, to protect those that can't protect themselves. And that's why we're made for this day, to fight this battle. So don't sulk away, don't shrimp away, but stand firm and be bold. Don't be embarrassed by who you are, but actually embrace it, because there's a reason why you've been made this way. You've been made this way for a reason, to fight these battles, and to do so in a way that leaves things better, not worse. And that's something that we'll work together on and get to. But that is who we are. And so while we see these injustice, why we see all these things, there's a reason why we have this boiling rage that might come up. And we need to learn how to harness that and use that. And older guys that have mastered this, to please train up the younger guys that can end doing this. And I'm just going to close with this last poem. Comes from a Indian chief. I would mispronounce his name if I tried, but you guys have probably all heard this before. Just in closing. So live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Love your life, perfect your life, beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home. May that be true for you and us all as we go forth and conquer. Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to like, share, and rate the podcast. It really helps us reach more listeners. Don't forget to follow us on social media and visit our website, alphaoverwatch.org, for more information. Until next time, remember to go forth and conquer.